One thing that is good for us to remember here is the story that we have in the Bible, the word daughters. When the word daughter is near to a man's name, means female offspring. When the word daughter is near to a place name, is the poor, is men and women who live in the land. So when Jesus said that the daughters of Jerusalem, don't cry for me, cry for yourself, Jesus is not speaking to a handful of women on the way to the cross. He's speaking to everybody in Jerusalem, other than the leaders. The daughters of Zion, the daughters of Zion, the daughters of Jerusalem. But then you have the daughters of Jacob. Those are just his children. So, now remember, everybody around here, 90% of the population are working, but then our grains, our oil, our wine needs to be stored inside. What these people tell us is, don't worry, we put your grains here in our silos so we can keep it safe. If the enemy comes, we let you in. Okay? So that's what we need to remember, is how many of these 90% people outside here have a chance to enter the city. Let's go there and see those steps leading to the place where the poor people, the daughters of Megiddo, would come.
Hananya explained that the people that usually lived at the top of this hill would be the military, the commanders, general, and army.
Steps going back to Solomon and pre-Solomon time. Just imagine that we're having the Assyrians or the Babylonians or the Romans coming to destroy or to siege the town, and people climb the stairs, knock on the door, let us in, let us in. You told that you were going to let us in. How many people get in there? Because the people inside there are saying to each other, well, if you let them in, it will be one last day of food for us. In those days, if you're not strong enough to attack the army that invading you, your only defense is to close yourself into your wall and hope that you have more food and water than they have. And then eventually they'll go away. This place has been a place of war ever since the beginning. The earliest recorded war we have here is from the Egyptians when they came here to conquer Megiddo. Megiddo was a very wealthy city in that time. That was about 1300 BC. They are surprised by the invaders that they just left their wealth outside and run back to town to save their lives. Or the Egyptian pharaoh just collected so much from the fields around Megiddo and from the chariots that the guys had left that it was enough. So they just collected everything that was left around and marched, leaving the town untouched. One of the images that you have on the gate from the Bible is the idea that the gates can lift up their heads, like in the Psalms. Lift up your heads, O gates, so the King of Glory can come through. What we learn from that in reading and studying is that on the gates you have the judges. The judges sit here in those chambers and help the people and solve their problems. We have that in the book of Ruth, when Boaz is trying to marry Ruth to go to the gate and plead the case because he was not the first one online for family reasons. So they need to discuss that there. So you put your judges here. So you see, in the language of the Bible, it's not that the gates have head, but it's the judges who sit on the gates have head. Now, wherever the decision is made here at the gate would affect the life of people inside of the city or around the city. So that's what the Bible is saying. Make right judgments so you don't need to be shamed by what you're deciding. And whatever decision you make here is what is going to be inside. So imagine, the enemies are coming, they are surrounding our fields, you can hear the noise of the horse and see this dust on the distance. You have time to pick up your children and run to the gate. And the soldiers or the judge or whoever is there has the gates locked to you. Let us in. It's time to make a decision.
This place had
so many wars throughout the whole history that we should not be surprised that Revelation 16 speaks about Megiddo, and the last battle happened on the fields of Megiddo, or Armageddon. Armageddon is the Hebrew pronunciation. Har is mountain, Megiddo is this area. Remember, God never really wanted a king for Israel. King was man idea, probably woman also. Man and woman wanted a king. God never intended for us to have kings. Remember, if you have a king, he will multiply wives and horses in that order. And you don't want that. It will take your sons and daughters to the army. But then sometimes God is good, and God sends out handfuls of
Good kings.
King Hezekiah in Jerusalem is a good king. King Hezekiah invites the daughters of Israel, the daughters of the north, to come and stay in Jerusalem. So when we had the Assyrians conquering the north, he invites the refugees for them, and he provided houses for them, and enlarged the city, and included them in. The office of the prophet starts at the same time that the office of the king starts. And the prophet's job is to keep the king remembering the poor. It's very easy to talk about the daughters when they are in China or in India. But what happens about the daughters in our own town? So maybe we are called to be prophets on our own towns, and we need to help our system. Many years, this was written about in every archaeological book and Israel book being Solomon's stables, because it sounded good. We have the Solomon's stable in Jerusalem that also was not neither stables or Solomonic, it was just under the mosque. So we have Solomon's horses everywhere, but this is more like Ahab, 2 kings after Solomon, that is building this up. Ahab and Jezebel.
Huh. Didn't recognize the pronunciation.
It's terrible when you're a king and you are recognized by your wife's name. He probably turns in his grave every time. But we have then mangers over there. You tie the horse on the sides. So your town, even though you don't have much room for people, said only up to 10% would be here, but you still have a very strong army. Just here below, on the other side of these trees here, is where the waters tunnel. The idea is the spring is on that valley. Remember, we are on the top of the artificial mound. We're on the top of the tell. On that side was the spring. The entrance is from that side. And you build this wall up here. And you want to include the water inside of the wall. Why? So you can survive the siege. So what we did here in Megiddo, the wall is here, the water is here outside the wall. What they did is to make a tunnel down and then horizontal to go into the water. Then you make the water, the spring, release its water underground because you make a big open inside. So the water that used to flow road level dried out. So then you spread the news to your people that, oh, look what happened. The spring dried out. And you hope that they will believe that, because when the enemy comes and torture them, they'll not say, oh yeah, we'll build a tunnel. You see, if the enemy discover your water sources, they could break into that tunnel, throw a horse into the water system, and in a week will be polluted. And then you no longer have water there. Now, it will be hard for you as a king or a ruler of Megiddo to let the daughters to realize what you did. Because until now, the daughters would go to the spring and get their water. Now, if a daughter wants to drink, their family needs to go all the way around, all the way up the stairs, through the gate, all the way across town, all the way down, all the way across to the spring, get their jars, come all the way up the stairs, all the way across town, through the gate, all the way down, all the way around to their house. See? But that is, on their mind, worthwhile, because now we can protect ourselves against the siege. Now, you need to make a decision to go down to the water tunnel or to wait for us here.
We first take 183 stairs.
You're not going to make us do that.
I'm leading you in.
So which end was it that the daughters...
They used to be able to come
Okay.
just from the street and collect, because this was outside the city.
Okay, so they blocked it off.
So they blocked it off and carved this tunnel, make the water this way, probably kill a couple of daughters so they'll forget, and then force them to come through the gate to reach the same water that they was just built in a neighborhood before.
Silo to where they collected the grain. Stairs going down.
Yes.
And another stairway up.
Everything will be plastered, built up higher. Oh, the whole city is missing here. So this is only what we have underground.
Round construction over there is what we call in Hebrew the bima. Or that was the area of the altar, where Canaanites used to come and sacrifice. And the construction nearby.
Summarizing, what John saw in his vision, which he wrote about in the book of Revelation, was Megiddo and its surrounding fields filled with horses and men armed with swords and shields. What John understood from his vision was that there would be a final battle someday between good and evil. And what John knew was that though there will be another final battle someday, at least he was on the winning side. The question remains, are you?